Hey everybody, it's JJ, and it is on some planet. It's Thursday on the Breakfast Club, and today I kind of wanted to talk about yesterday or Wednesday's video about humanity and politics, which was a great video, and you should go watch it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the ultimate moral discrepancies that exist in politics, especially between liberals and conservatives, but obviously, that's kind of like a false dichotomy, so um, it's a lot more nuanced than that. But there are differences, and so I'm a very big advocate for um, becoming more self-aware about how we communicate with each other and why we think the things that we think and how we think them and how we articulate them, and because those can all be very impactful on political discourse. And I do believe that a lot of political discourse is based solely on miscommunication, um, simple linguistic differences that people don't have an awareness of and therefore get upset or offended by to whatever degree, um, which just makes this divide harder. And it just, there's a lot of misunderstanding that happens. And as mentioned in the previous video, there's a lot of like money in politics, and politics are a game for a lot of people. But I think it's important to remember that the nature of politics is inherently humane. Um, is related to humanity. Like, politics exist because we're regulating humans. That's what politics is, and whether you believe we should or shouldn't, to what degree we should regulate humans, and in what ways, like that's a whole other conversation. But and I hate when people say stuff like, you know, oh, you should get over your political differences to be friends with somebody, or that we all need to put politics aside and care about each other. And I think that people maybe forget that politics are human because we are human. Um, if I disagree with someone about immigration policies, like, we'll say that that's fine. Like, well, whatever. Like, oh, let's put our differences aside and be friends. But, like, what if that person was friends with someone whose family was being deported, or maybe they themselves are being deported and can't get the college education they plan on getting, even if maybe they've already gotten into college and they can't go and they have to be sent to this country they've never been to before, and like, how you wouldn't tell them to put their politics aside to be friends with you? Like, that's affecting their entire life. Like, humans get one tiny life on this planet, and for you to say that they should just get over the fact that the way you vote and what you believe inherently decreases the quality of their life, like, fuck that. Like, they shouldn't have to get. I don't think it's immature to not want to be friends with people who don't want what's best for you, or aren't compassionate, and I'm not saying like you shouldn't be open-minded, and I do believe in that, but there are some lines that people should be allowed to draw around themselves just for their own personal health, you know? And in that situation, not only is the quality of life going to be decreased because maybe, because of the immigration problems or whatever in America, but now you want them to be friends with you too while that's happening, so then their quality of life is extra decreased because they know their friends don't give a shit about them. Like, that's fucked up. No, they shouldn't have to. And I just want to call on people to remember that politics are inherently human, first of all, and so we can't just get over them and be friends, in my opinion. I'm sorry. That's just, and I will have respectful discourse with people in the Breakfast Club, and I do have friends that I disagree with on a lot of things, but there are lines that I do draw, and I think that's okay, and I think that's my right as a human being, and I don't think that makes me, I don't know, I don't think that says anything bad about me. But, and then the other thing, like I was referring to earlier, was the fact that even though there is a lot of miscommunication that goes on in politics, sometimes there are straight up moral differences. I study linguistics, and my big thing I'm studying right now is conceptual metaphor theory, contemporary metaphor theory, and I've been looking a lot, or we've been looking a lot in classes and my readings and stuff about like metaphors that different political parties use to describe morality and stuff like that. So, generally more conservative people um, perceive morality as like upright, as being strong, um, and rigid. So like, whereas more left people might consider morality to be about being nurturing, um, and compassionate. So like, for example, talking about the idea of like someone with a drug addiction. So there are the way that, let's see. So someone who's addicted to drugs, a conservative might view that as a moral failing on the part of this person, where someone on the left might see this as, someone in our community is struggling and we need to, help the herd, and we need to nurture, and we need to pull them back up. Whereas the right is, this person has failed in some way, and so therefore they are morally deficit in some way, and don't deserve help. And so if you just even think about that one example, like, it affects politics greatly. So like, I'm in Indiana, just huge, horrible, disgusting heroin epidemic going on here. And Mike Pence made it so much worse, trying to eradicate, clean needle exchange programs, because you shouldn't be helping or giving needles to or in any way condoning moral failure in the eyes of the right. But in reality, that's not really, like, it sounds like, yeah, we shouldn't give heroin addicts needles. But because you are therefore contributing to this moral failing, and that makes you a moral failure. And that often seems like the right's perception. Whereas in the left, it's like, this is going to help them be more healthy, and, in the long term will, save lives, which is the goal. So even the way that we metaphorically view our morality is extremely important, so welfare, right? If you are on welfare, you have failed some way, often in the eyes of the right. Sorry, you failed. I'm not saying you failed some way. I don't feel that way. In the eyes of the right, you haven't maintained the nuclear family structure, this morally upright, lifestyle, and it's your fault. And so you have failed, and so we let you fail because you are morally deficit in some way. Whereas, again, the left, more prone to welfare, is let's pull you out of this hole, let's lift you back up, because that's the solution. Obviously, where I stand on the spectrum is kind of obvious, but in an attempt to be objective, I'm not going to make a value judgment on either of these morals. But I think that we should just be aware of the fact that they exist. And you can't just pretend that they don't, because it's not just one big misunderstanding. A lot of it is, but it's not all. Sometimes people just disagree with us. Fundamentally, morally. And it sucks, but it's true. Anyway, I will see you guys next week. And try to please stay maybe not upbeat, but positive, and I don't know, take care of yourself during this trying time in our country.